Welcome to Brain Strength, the series where this fool tries to teach you a thing about sports psychology. I'm your host, RJ Lynch, and with my master's in sports psychology, let's get this thing rolling today. In this week's episode of Brain Strength, we're going to be focusing on motivation. The drive behind why we get up in the morning at 4 a.m. for practice, the reason we avoid parties at night, or vice versa, the reason we go to the parties instead of going to practice, the reason we sleep in and miss class, all these things, and then try to understand how we build it, how we work on it, and how we use it to the best of our abilities. Motivation, by its definition, is the internal and external factors that drive us to do things. The reason we get up, we go do it, the why behind it. From the very simplistic, I have to do this thing to survive, I have to eat and drink, otherwise my body will shrivel and die, all the way to the philosophical, deeper meanings of life of why do we exist, why do we do anything. With motivation, there's generally a couple different forms. Intrinsic versus extrinsic are the two primary forms. It really comes down to where the drive is coming from. So internal intrinsic regulation is all based on our satisfaction, our enjoyment, these things that we have strong interest from. I do this because it makes me smile and happy. I feel better doing it. Then you have the externals, starting from things that are completely external, they're always driven by others, to things that while you do it, you get some confirmation from the external world. It also involves some of your internal feelings, thoughts, and all that. So from the outmost, most external, you have external regulation. And this is about that compliance. If you don't do this thing, you're going to be punished for it. If you do this thing, you're going to get a reward for it. You do it because there's a negative or positive that's going to come from doing the thing. Then you have introjected, which is based around your ego involvement. I'm doing this thing because if I don't, my ego is threatened. I am lesser. Then you have identified, which is getting closer to intrinsic, but not quite there yet. Identified really based around the values, the things of personal importance to you. So I act in kind manners to people because I see kindness and compassion as something that's of value, that it's the reason I should be doing it. Now, it doesn't necessarily bring me a lot of personal joy and happiness all the time to do it, though most of the time it does. But I do it because it is what's right in my mind and there's more congruence there. And then there's integrated. I do things because that's what I am. I am kind and compassionate because I'm a kind and compassionate person. I play basketball because I'm a basketball player. It is what I am, and it's part of the awareness of who I am. And I get the satisfaction of knowing this is in alignment from the confirmation from others, from when I make the basketball team, when other people call me kind or say you're so sweet. Those are where we get the reward from, or where we get the confirmation of what's going on. So that's why it's still an external thing. So internal, you do a thing, you feel happy, you know, like, oh, this is why I do it. External, even if it's I do a thing because I am that person, I'm rewarded or I'm confirmed by something external. So then I feel more satisfied and happier about it. That's kind of where that distinction best comes from. Then there's amotivation. It's nothing intentional, nothing valued, not a lot of control. I can just throw my hands up in there and say, I don't care. Don't matter to me. Now, what type of motivation is better can vary on the circumstance and what's going on. The more internal things are, the more intrinsic they are, the farther you are towards the identified and that kind of stuff, even on the external part, usually the stronger the motivations are going to be. You're a lot more likely to do something because it is who you are versus when you're going to be rewarded or punished for it. So if I play basketball and do well in basketball because I feel like I am a basketball player, I'm more motivated than I play basketball and try to do well because the rest of my family plays basketball and I should just do it, I guess. And if I don't, I'll feel like I'm punished or so. Now, At times, in brief instances, the rewards and the punishment stuff can work. If you offer your team or some people these little tidbits or things to help them, that might get them rewarded, might make them feel driven. That first big paycheck as a professional athlete can be a strong motivator, but it won't keep you going once you get into your 30s, 40s, and now your body's speed up and it's like, I've made several $1,000,000. Do I need any more? That reward is no longer there. But if you're identifying with this is what I am, then you will continue to do it. So what does it look like when you're motivated versus unmotivated or lacking motivation? I don't know if unmotivated is a word, but we're going with it today. Well, a motivated person will give consistent effort. They're driven, they understand their why, so they're going to keep putting the work in. They're actively trying to learn. They want to accomplish something. And if they know there's a deficit caused by knowledge they have, they're going to do what they can to make up that deficit. They're generally going to have a more positive attitude. When they understand why they're getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning to go practice or lift, they're going to be happier about it than the person who has no understanding of why they got up that early. Why am I trudging through the snow in the middle of December up in Wisconsin when it's 0 degrees out? Why am I getting out of bed? If the answer to that why is very strong and you're very, very motivated by it, you're just going to complain less. Consistent with the actively learning and trying to get better, you're going to have this desire to improve. You're going to want to do more. If you identify yourself as a basketball player or as a football player, as a gymnast, whatever it is, you're going to have this desire to improve so you can keep being that thing and not be tossed out of it. And then lastly, you're resilient. When you know your why, you're more likely to get up when you get knocked down. The stronger the motivation is, easier it is to get down. When you get punched in the face in a boxing ring, if you are out there boxing for your happiness, enjoyment, because you love it, because it is who you are, because you're a fighter, you're going to get up. When you're just there, a little unmotivated, or just chasing a small paycheck, sometimes you might just lay down and be like, this is it. I'm done today. When you're lacking motivation, be the opposite of things. There'll be a lack of effort. You're not going to try because you don't care, you don't have a why. You're going to avoid challenging situations because you have no reason to want to overcome them. You're going to be quick to give up because it's easier to give up. It's safer to give up for you. Your ego's less threatened. Your body's usually in better shape if you give up. It's just easier then. There's reduced interest and there's minimum engagement with others. If you're with a team that's very motivated or a lot of people that are trying to do their best and you have no care in the world, you're not going to engage with them. You're just going to kind of let time pass on by. So there's a couple theories behind motivation. There's actually a lot of them. So I just tried to narrow down to 3 that I think are easiest to comprehend and put into the grand picture of things. And the first is self-determination theory. So when do we feel motivated? Why do we feel motivated? It comes down to 3 elements. Do we feel competent? If we think we're competent in something or have this desire to become competent, to master ourselves, then we're going to be more likely to do things. We're going to be more likely to go to practice to learn because that's where we gain our competency. Or we know we're competent, so we're going to have a desire to show it off, to be in competitions, to do things where we prove ourselves as a competent human being. Next, we're likely to be more motivated and go after things, have a stronger why if we feel autonomy. If we feel like we're doing it because it's what we want to do, we're going to do it versus if we feel like we're being forced to do it by someone else. Best way to think about this one is think of a time where you're sitting in your room, kind of look around it and like, I should really clean up. I feel like cleaning up today. And then your mother comes in or your father's like, clean your room. And then you sit there like, well, no, I'm not going to. That's that feeling of autonomy. When you felt like you were in control, that your decision is what was motivating you to do something, you're like, yeah, I want to do it. That feeling of autonomy is taken away. You're being told to do something. You're like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And then lastly, we do things because we want to feel this sense of relatedness, like we're connected to other people. So I want to do well in my sport because I enjoy it, because I want to be competent. It's something I choose to do. And then also, I want to be part of a team. I love the atmosphere of just being around other people, striving with others. That's going to make my motivation a lot higher. Next, the other theory of motivation is achievement goal theory. So what are the two reasons we're doing things? We're doing it because we're trying to master it. We're focused on the task, or we're focused on the performance and our ego. Are we doing things because we just want to get better at it, or to show other people we're better than them at it? And then generally what happens is someone who's driven by mastery and tasks of trying to be better at something is going to be more motivated, because when they get knocked down and show like, oh, you're not better than me at it, that ego and performance part gets thrown like, I'm not better than them. How is this possible? How are their powers so strong? And then when you see this, your mind starts to spiral. It's like, well, I never want to face them again. I can't be put in this situation again. Or someone who's focused on mastery is like, cool, you're better than me right now. Guess I gotta work harder. Guess I'm gonna keep going, and we'll see. I'll become my best self, and then we'll see which of our best is best. Then lastly, we have expectancy to value. So our motivation is based on the fact of our expectation of success. Do we see it as we are 20% likely to be successful at what we're doing, or we're 80% likely to succeed? And then the value of the outcome. If we put a lot of value on the outcome, but we're only 20% likely to succeed, we might still go and do it, because that 20%, that chance of whatever we could achieve so strong in us that we want it so badly, we're going to take that chance. If we're only 20% likely to succeed and we really don't care about the reward or the outcome of it, like it's not going to make us that happy, we're not going to be that satisfied with it, and kind of just be like, I ain't going to try. Why would I want to do that? And then vice versa, if we feel like we're very likely to succeed at it, even if it's not something we care that much about, we're still likely going to give it a shot. And if we really care about it, we're definitely going to give it a shot. So what are the things that I might do as a mental performance professional to help people work on motivation? Well, the first thing is thought reframing mixed with a little bit of talk therapy. So when I sit down with a client, I really dig deep into the why behind it and try to understand where they are on that extrinsic versus intrinsically motivated spectrum. And if I get this feeling that everything they're doing is very extrinsically motivated, very externally focused, I'm going to sit there and like, well, can we connect you to something else of why do you want to do it? Because it's got to be more than just the money. It's got to be more than just this. There's a deeper reason why you get in there. And if I can get you to connect to that, then you're going to be better. If I can shift your focus from, I want to be a champion so I can show other people that I'm better than them, to even just, I want to go be a champion because I want to show that all the work that I did was worth it. It's completely flip, and it's still not quite perfect from just, I just want to be the best version of myself and I'm okay with whatever the outcome is. Even if I just get to that middle ground of, I still want the championship and I want to do it because it's proof of where I am, that just helps a little bit. So if I can just reframe that thought, readjust where you're at, that'll do a lot of good for you. For someone who starts out very motivated but loses focus where things are, creating little reminders for themselves can be a strong component to it. So putting sticky notes in the bathroom mirror of what your goal time's at, creating those reminders just helps you in those moments where it's like, I'm done, I'm tired, this is exhausting, I just want to quit. In those moments, if you have those reminders, you're going to be able to step back up. And then lastly, it's goal setting. It's sitting down there and having you crank out, why are we doing this? What are we looking for as an outcome? How do we overcome it? How do we adjust to it? And then attached to everything else, making sure there's goals that involve the process in there that might have an outcome or two, just so you have different things that you can succeed at, so that we strike into that competency. When you can check off goals as accomplished, you feel more competent at what you're doing, and then you just feel better doing it. Coaches and athletes, specifically coaches, what can you do to stay motivated, to get your athletes motivated? Athletes, what can you do to motivate yourself? Big one that I love and see a lot of times is rank and record. So record your progress. If you do max outs, if you test your max velocity, write down what you run. and see how it goes up and down and hopefully gets faster and faster. Or see who's in front of you that you're trying to keep up with. Like, oh, that person beat me today. I want to get them next time. Create that healthy environment of having them chase that next person and then get those rewards of when they cross the 300-pound club, the 22-mile-an-hour club, the 1,000-pound club, whatever it is, like they get t-shirts, they get rewards for like, oh, I'm that guy now. Create some varied and engaging workouts. So if you feel like you're in a slump, you feel like the vibes are off, when the team's kind of just in a low period, sit there and be like, all right, we could do a normal practice that they're just going to trudge through, or I could add in some games. I could add in some exciting new drills that we're just going to really do the one time, but it's going to focus on the things we were going to do in a more novel and unique way that's just going to give a little bit of energy and spice to things. Create positive reinforcement. So when they do things right, tell them they do things right. Reward them with things they did right. Avoid punishments, because punishments, well, they can work in a few instances, generally just threaten an athlete's ego, make them sit there in loathing and disgust or hate. And that's not a spot you want your athletes. So reward them, give them these feelings like you're doing the right thing, keep it up, and it'll just help them be more motivated. Create athlete-led practices. So one of the best ways to engage your team, especially some of your leaders who might be in a slump, is have them talk about what they want to do that day for practice and let them lead it. Put them in charge and make them feel like they're attached to this thing. And it may help them feel more competent and more related to the team, really driving on that self-determination piece. And then lastly, understand your athletes. Talk to them, understand why they do what they do. And then when they're gaining their slumps, be the person that reminds them, it's like, Joe, I know it's tough today, but remember what you told me about how you're dedicating the season to your friend who's got cancer. Remember that. Remember that right now. Now get going. You've got this. If you understand what drives them, you can just turn that key a little bit when it's needed to get that spark, to help them refine that moment of like, oh yeah, this is why I do it. And if your athlete's someone who's driven by things that aren't always that helpful, you can help them find deeper things. You can help them connect to the team, to you, to whoever it is, as long as you understand them. So that's all I really have today on motivation. It's a vast topic that we could talk forever on, work forever on. But I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight into it, helps you better understand what you can do to drive yourself, drive your athletes. And if you have any questions, need any help with this thing, reach out, leave a comment, whatever it is. Until next time, if I say anything today that you found offensive or didn't necessarily agree with, I hope you can forgive me. If you say anything in the comments that I find a bit offensive or don't necessarily agree with, I'll probably forgive you. Brain strength, out.